Brethren in Japan are aware of my new book on the early history of Freemasonry, which came out in December last year. It is in Japanese because there is very little accurate information on Freemasonry written in Japanese. Most of what is available is about conspiracy theories, which give a bad impression to the general public. Briefly, my book debunks several theories such as that Freemasonry was started in Egypt, as Albert Pike and George Oliver suggest, or that Freemasons are connected to the Templars, or that Freemasonry is even a death cult. I look at a dozen other such stories as the Holy Grail, alchemy, Chinese triads, and the Knights Hospitallers. This book is 280 pages and is in Japanese. Currently, I am finishing a second book in English that I have titled Freemasonry and Spiritual Alchemy. This is just a mock-up of what I think the book might look like. It looks at the alchemical roots of Freemasonry, the fact that two of the first Grand Masters, George Payne and John de Sagulier, knew Isaac Newton intimately. Payne worked with Newton at the Royal Exchequer, which is the Treasury Department of Great Britain, and de Sagulier worked with Newton at the Royal Society. And both Newton and Robert Boyle were experienced alchemists. There were many signposts showing an advanced alchemical underpinning to the 3 degrees, and I show this in another short video explaining the symbolism of alchemy that's on the aprons, and I will upload that today. My new book in English looks in detail at the origins of the Premier Grand Lodge between 1716 and 1730. For example, we know that 4 lodges met in 1716 to decide to set up a Grand Lodge. But did you know one of those lodges was very different from the other 3? I look at this in another short video on the lodge at the Horn Tavern that I hope to upload soon. This book covers the history at the time of the beginning of the Premier Grand Lodge, such as the rebellion by the Jacobites that Anderson talks about in the constitutions of 1723, or the fact that a German had just become King of England and what British people thought about that. It also looks at, too, the intellectual developments in England, the establishment of the Royal Society, the Rosicrucians, and the impact of the South Sea Bubble that nearly brought down the government. Then there are the religious changes, the strong anti-Catholic sentiment, but the fact that Catholics were favoured by Freemasons over atheists. But then how did an atheist once become Deputy Grand Master? Or the introduction of a new prayer book that started riots over England, and the sudden growth of dissension in England, such as the Quakers and the Muggletonians. Then there is a chapter on alchemy, the quirky theories that people believed, collecting dew in the field early morning to make magical elixirs, and how not everybody was trying to make gold. Then I look at 5, the people who started the Grand Lodge and their lives. For example, one of them was bankrupted by the South Sea Bubble and had to escape to Spain to avoid creditors. He ended up fighting against the British forces and ended up wandering the streets in an old soldier's uniform, drunk out of his mind. Another Grand Master, known as the Devil, was arrested for killing a man in a duel, but as he was a peer, he was tried in the Houses of Parliament not in a court of law, and the prosecutor also happened to be a past Grand Master. The defendant was found not guilty. Another Grand Master who'd been made a Knight of the Bath was a bit of a prankster and ducked the French philosopher Montesquieu in a bath of cold water, making him a Knight of the Bath as well. Then I look at the aristocracy and nobility and how they saved Freemasonry from being labelled a subversive society and nearly disbanded under the Unlawful Oaths Act of 1797 and the following act. Finally, there are the important roles of a Chinese Mandarin and the head librarian at Oxford University with his secret scrolls, as well as dozens of side stories, such as the importance of the Gormagons, the Invisible College, secret codes, and the Philosopher's Stone. This book will be about 500 pages long with over 30 pages of references. I'm currently looking for a publisher, and if someone can kindly introduce me to one, I'd be very grateful and give several copies of the book in exchange for the introduction. Thank you.